look at us tech nerds over here.
Tech savvy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I really love to talk to the idea of building muscle mass and getting lean. I guess, look, I have a bias, right? Because when I interview people like yourself, Lucas, honestly, I, I do it for very selfish reasons most of the time. It's almost like I'm going to get a free PT lesson, right? Because I know it's going to help me, but it's also going to help others that are listening. But this year I'll be turning 47.
Wow.
Um, I am, yeah. So I'm like at a stage where, in terms of training, I feel like I'm quite near the level of strength and conditioning. No, not so much conditioning, but I'd say at least strength to when I was in my early 20s on gear. So I'm not saying it as a flex or as a brag. I'm just saying that the way that my training has gone in the last several years, listening to guys like you doing your limitless course and all that kind of stuff, trying to elevate my testosterone levels, eat very good most of the time. So that's where I'm at the moment. Like, so I do want to expand upon that. I want to get leaner. I want to get healthier inside and out. I want to reverse the aging process. You know, I did a test the other day where I think my bio age was like 39 and or 41, I think, and I'm 46, so I'm
Wow.
nearly 47. So that'd be good to kind of pull that apart a little bit more and create a bit of a further distance. But at the same time, being 46, I'm more susceptible to injuries. I need more time to recover. I can't do hours in the gym. I need to work out smarter around that. I'm kind of doing like heaps of drop sets, doing supersets and giant sets and all that kind of stuff so I can cram as much weight in the shortest period of time and then get the fuck out of there, because after 35, 40 minutes, honestly, like my mind's not even into it, Lucas. Like I'm just like, I'm done.
Yeah. Now there's a lot we can explore there. I mean, first of all, you look bloody awesome for 46, man. Like hats off to you. You
Thank
look
you.
great for your age. But there's definitely a lot we can do from like a fat loss perspective. I mean, you've got different strategies, you've got different protocols, which include like you got the ice baths, you've got the intermittent fasting, you've got severe caloric restriction. I think what's really going to be trending in 2025 is the implementation of specific peptides
Mm.
and these small molecules that are more selective and more targeted for specifically dropping body fat, more so than like some of the pharmaceutical, the ones I'm referring to, like semaglutide or Ozempic. Specifically, in their action more being specific to fat loss and preserving muscle tissue. Now, of course, the testosterone side of things is going to be important there. The higher the natural testosterone, the easier it is to recover, the more muscle you're going to build, the better you're going to feel in the gym and outside the gym. And a lot of guys are starting to pick up on this, that testosterone is the hormone of resilience, and being able to adapt and cope with modern day stresses can be really supported by testosterone.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's explore that and unpack that a bit because look, I haven't done any tests, so I don't really have anything to measure, which doesn't sound like the best way. When I say it out loud, it doesn't sound like the best thing to do. However, um, I'm doing my best to get my testosterone levels as elevated as possible. And one of the things I think I'd like you to talk to, so whenever I talk to my mates about getting your test levels high, what they always, if not every time, refer to is the fact that they can get a boner. So they're like, oh man, my test levels are really high because I can get a boner. Like I've got no troubles getting morning wood or anything like that, or getting it up. But to my knowledge, that's not really a tell, is it? Like just because you can get an erection doesn't mean that your testosterone levels are super high, because these guys, when I look at them too, like in terms of their muscle physio, like the way they're put together, they're not exactly a shining beacon of health, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's spot on, man. So, like many guys out there can get an erection even with moderate to low testosterone. But what they're missing out on is all the other benefits of having high testosterone. So if you look at the literature, having high levels of testosterone actually reduces the risk of many different types of diseases as you age. So it makes sense for these guys if they think that they're okay with low testosterone, but they're still able to get an erection, they're going to be missing out on many other health benefits associated with general metabolism, such as maintaining muscle mass as you age, which is incredibly important. Number two is actually preserving bone mineral density. So you've got actual bones that won't break if you fall when you're 80 years old, basically. Like that's going to be important for that. And yeah, it's a really good point. So these guys that are saying they can still perform, that's more of a dopamine and a circulation pathway. So like
Mm.
that's a blood flow thing and a dopamine neurotransmitter thing. And then obviously feeling, you know, sexually comfortable with their partners. Yeah, of course, that's gonna help that
Yeah,
as well.
sure. Yeah. All right. Well, how do you boost your testosterone? Like when you mentioned before, like the pathway for 2025 is going to be peptides. I definitely want to talk about what to what to get on and how much to take, more importantly as well. But for those that are maybe just thinking about ways they can do it naturally, can you speak to some of the things that you would recommend? And then also, I wanted to pick your brain about ashwagandha and all of these things because there's some talk when I listen to you about how they're not really doing what they're meant to be doing, and in high doses they're having an effect. So, what are the steps you think you would take as a beginner trying to flick the switch to go back to high testosterone?
Yep. So it's a great question. I mean, there's many different strategies to optimize testosterone naturally. So if we look at it from like a nutrition perspective, the evidence is pretty strong, suggesting that saturated fats, so meats, red meat, chicken, eggs, dairy, yogurt, milk, all of these foods are actually beneficial for men to boost testosterone. And that is because they're high in these fat soluble vitamins. And they're also packed with many other nutrients that are actually highly beneficial. So I think we can immediately like not disqualify saturated fats because they're actually important despite what mainstream media wants you to believe.
Mm.
They'll be pushing canola oil, sunflower, like all these vegetable oils, which are not actually beneficial for hormones. And then if you look at it from like a carbohydrate perspective, I would say a lot of guys out there tend to fear carbohydrates a little bit too much.
That's me.
Um, yeah, so like the guys that are training pretty intensely, what happens is if you do not refeed your body with carbohydrates post workout, then cortisol levels actually stay elevated for quite some time post workout. So this is why I always recommend refueling with carbohydrates post workout to actually bring down the cortisol because your cortisol spikes when you train.
Mm.
Carbohydrates come in, they refuel the body. And just in general, when I speak to guys, the ones that feel their absolute best, and from looking at their blood work, the ones that have the highest free testosterone are the guys that actually have a pretty well balanced diet, man.
Mm.
Like it's a pretty balanced diet. It's like a Mediterranean style diet.
Yeah, sure. What does that look like though? Like what's a standard Mediterranean diet?
So it would include things like olive oil, red meat, lots of seafood, fish, coffee, butter, maybe a few nuts here and there, like macadamias, almonds. And then from a carbohydrate perspective, leaning towards many different fruits. So lots of berries, apples, bananas, just a very well balanced diet.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, less obviously breads, pastas, starchy carbs. Like, would you say that that would be something you wanted to avoid, along with seed oils and things like that as well?
Yeah. Well, it's training really hard. Like let's say a guy's training like for an hour a day and he's doing like really high intensity workouts, then he can actually like afford to eat those meals, like eat the pastas, eat the rice, eat the breads. But it's more so those that are more sedentary that don't actually work out. They're the ones that have to be careful with how much sort of pasta and bread and things that they consume.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you're training, actually, let's just stick on the nutrition things. So when you mentioned seed oils, there is a lot of literature that's coming out that's saying how toxic seed oils are for the body, but particularly with men in terms of their testosterone levels and things like that. But then there are people that, I don't know, have you ever heard of a guy called, I think his name's James Smith. Have you ever heard of, he's a
Yeah,
PT, he's very, wildly
yeah,
popular online. I see him at the cafe around the corner sometimes, but he's got a couple of videos out there that are like, they're not bad. And there's no real literature to say that they are. Like, what do you know from your research?
yeah. I mean, it's crazy, man, because if you actually do a little bit of research on like PubMed and some of these research articles, they'll actually speak favorably about a lot of these polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Hmm.
But if you dive deeper and have a look at who's funding the studies, it's some of these big companies that are basically just biased. Like
Producing
the
it.
research data is it's
Yeah.
basically rigged and
By
biased.
surprise. Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you were to compare canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, any of these oils to olive oil or like butter,
Hmm.
looking at it from a health perspective, I mean, you're getting so many more beneficial polyphenols and beneficial compounds in olive oil and butter compared to canola oil, even though they might be a little bit cheaper. I'm not a fan. I think they should be eliminated from most people's diets.
Yeah. Wow. And so when you're continuing on with the aid to improve your testosterone levels, apart from the food side of things, like what other supplements do you say would be a staple in trying to get that like natural boost?
Yeah, so there's actually a mineral called boron. You might be familiar with. It's
Yeah.
becoming quite popular at the moment. There is some
Is
strong
boron
evidence.
from borax or is that different?
You can actually get boron from borax,
Yeah.
but some people prefer to use like boron glycinate or boron citrate. It's a little bit different.
Sure.
Um, and so looking at dosages for boron, really we're looking at around 10 milligrams per day
Hmm.
of boron for about 4 weeks on, maybe 1 week off, and repeating that continuously. Most guys see an increase in free testosterone just from using boron. So that's like a very strong safety profile, no real side effects. Um, and that seems to, it's very, very affordable as well. So a lot of guys can benefit from like boron. Then, if you're looking at some other herbs, I mean, I'm a big fan of herbal medicine. I'm a naturopath, so I love, studying this. Um, it's pretty evident now that pine pollen, the herbal extract pine pollen, which is like Mother Nature's version of like soy for testosterone, is like it's the opposite of soy, is the way I put
Right.
it. Soy is estrogenic, which I'm sure you're familiar with. You understand that. Pine pollen is androgenic. It's the opposite. It's great for boosting testosterone. So I'd say pine pollen tincture, specifically an alcoholic extract of a
Hmm.
pine pollen tincture, can work really well to boost
Yeah.
testosterone.
Where do you get it? Do you sell that on your website or do you get it from like a health food store or where would you go?
So I do have it on I'm pretty sure I have it on my website at the moment. So I'm using a brand called Lost Empire Herbs.
Yeah.
They make a really high quality pine pollen. And then I'd say, like, not necessarily from a testosterone standpoint, but I mean, we have to look at what's going to be trending in 2025. And
Hmm.
I truly do believe that this new herb that I've brought to market, this catuaba, which is a Brazilian herb, a
Hmm.
Brazilian aphrodisiac,
Right.
that's been used for thousands of years. I think that's going to be really popular in
Yeah.
2025.
Uh, Tell me about that. What's that got in it?
Yeah, so the way I like to look at catuaba, and I've been studying it for many, many years, and I've also been like in touch with different shamans from Brazil to learn about how they use the herb. So basically, in Brazil, if you ask anyone, have you heard of the herb catuaba? Most people will look at you and say, "Oh, you want to have a good time tonight, don't you? Or you're looking to have some fun tonight."
Hmm.
It's basically their version of Viagra.
Right.
Um, and the catuaba is really, really unique in the sense that it's considered to be also like a nootropic because it actually works on the central nervous system. It works by actually optimizing the dopamine pathway. So you've got herbs like ashwagandha, which
Mm.
is quite popular as an anti-stress herb. The problem with ashwagandha is that it prioritizes serotonin. So people will feel more like relaxed and they can't be bothered doing things, like not motivated, apathetic when they
Mm.
increase serotonin. If you increase dopamine, just think of all the drugs and all the supplements that increase dopamine. It's a very
Yep.
different feeling.
Mm. All right. One will make you happy to bliss out and eat chips on the couch, and the other one you want to go for a run and experience life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spot
Yeah.
on, Adrian.
Yeah. That's awesome. So when you're combining these, like I'm interested to find out my personal experience is that the dosages. I don't know if it's just me personally because I'm nearly 100 kilos, but I don't think the recommended dosage on the bottle, for example, is enough. And I'm a bit sort of cautious to just be swallowing these things like they're going out of fashion. So, what levels like should you be at in terms of dosages and things like that, and for how long? Are you over 40, successful but unfulfilled? Do you feel stuck, like you're not truly living up to who you really are? So many high achievers wake up and think, I'm a good person. I read all the books. I listen to all the podcasts, yet there's something missing. Well, you're not alone. I've been there myself quite a few times. And quite frankly, it took a lot of years of really fucking around trying to figure out what I now call your higher self blueprint, which has enabled me to live a life and make a living with my passions and my purpose. If you're ready to break free from a life that's holding you back, I'm hosting a free training around the 5 pillars of success that will enable you to create a more meaningful, fulfilling, and purposeful life. So click the link in the show notes and I look forward to seeing you in the training. But for now, let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah. So with these particular products, like for example, with the pine pollen, if you do weigh a little bit more than like the average person, then your dosage can actually be titrated up by about 20 to 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So for in your case, given that you said you're
Yeah,
96,
96 kilos. Yeah.
so you'd be, yeah. So instead, I'd actually recommend increasing the dosage, a little bit, and just gauging your response. If you're responding well from like the already recommended dosage, then I'll just keep on that recommended dosage. Now, having said that, a lot of these herbs, particularly like pine pollen, the toxicity profile is very low.
Mm.
So, like your chances of becoming toxic, like they've literally got megadosing experiments on their website where people have taken like 2 tablespoons of their powder before bed, and they guarantee that their customers will get a morning wood. So they have that as like a proxy.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, no, there's definitely a lot we can do when it comes to different dosages for these.
Mm. All right, let's switch to peptides. I have done a little bit of experimenting with BPC 157 TB 500. I
Yep.
tried. I can't. I'm gonna balls up the name, but it's like a CJC 1295, something like that. It's like a growth hormone um, type of peptide. Am I saying it
Yep.
right? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah. CJC 1295.
Yeah, okay. So the problem I have with that is that I got site soreness, like I got redness around the site. It was itchy and it gave me the shits, and it got hard and sort of like lumpy, which I'm not into it. Like 25, 30 years ago when I was competing and stuff like that, you could tolerate shit like that, but now I'm just like I can't be fucked with those sorts of things. The other thing, it made me heat up almost immediately. Have you ever heard anyone talk
Yeah.
about that? The
Yeah.
moment I take it, heart rate went up and my body's temperature flared up for about half an hour. So again, it kind of, I don't know, it rattles me for a little bit because I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on with my body. It's starting to function a little bit differently, and it kind of like put the willies up me a little bit. But I did find with BPC 157 TB 500, after about the sort of 8-week period, I started to feel a lot better within the gym, recovering a lot quicker. But I don't think that I'm at that dosage that I need to be. So do you have like a guideline, or I mean, I know this is not recommended advice, or you're not, doing anything like that, but do you have any testimony to people that are taking certain levels, and at what level? Because I hear all these miraculous stories about people taking BPC 157 after they've torn something, and then 2 days later they're like running again. So it's like, oh, well, that didn't happen to me. I've had injuries in my lower back and my knees and stuff like that, but I took it for more than 2 days, and I didn't feel like, this was a miracle drug at all. So is my dosage like too low?
It could be definitely dosage related. It could also be quality and purity of the source that you've been using.
Yeah,
Because I
right.
know, like with peptides specifically, and in particular in Australia, there's a lot of companies that are selling like, peptides online, and they're not actually like third party assessed or quality control checked.
Yeah,
So
got it.
like the purity does actually make a pretty big difference, because peptides are so small. Like you've seen the dosages, they're so small. It's like
Yeah,
less than 1 milligram is the dose for
yeah.
most of them. So the good thing is though that peptides, a lot of them are actually also relatively like low toxicity. So because of their like relatively safe nature in terms of what happens when they get in the body, a lot of them are actually quite safe to use. But if you're getting like an allergic reaction after injecting immediately after, and
Mm.
you're feeling that flare up, you feel like your body's, do you get like the hot flushing
Yeah, hot
effect?
flush. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Elevated
that
heart
could
rate,
be,
like it was just a bit of a wild feeling.
it could potentially also be like a histamine reaction that you're getting from the injection, or it could be a carrier oil that they've used to suspend the peptide as well.
Got it. Yeah, I've heard the histamine thing before, and they're like, take a antihistamine an hour before you, and you pop it in your belly or something like that. So I don't know. It bugged me, to be honest with you. So I kind of like just put that one away. But what do you like, what is trending in 2025 or beyond? What are you getting the most results out of? Considering that this is my personal PT lesson. So like, what are we recommending for muscle gain, keeping your tissues and your tendons nice and healthy, but also, I want to look good, I want to look lean, and I want to keep my body fat under wraps without having to walk for 3 hours or do podcasts on a treadmill like you, just to keep my cardio up.
So I'd say in terms of peptides, there's one in particular called SS31.
Yeah,
Now, if
right.
you do a little research on SS31 peptide, you'll see that it's specifically targeting optimizing mitochondrial function. Now, the mitochondria is basically, to put it really simply, mitochondria is like the powerhouse of every single cell, and it's responsible for creating ATP, right? This is what everyone who uses creatine wants, to
Mm.
create more ATP. So ATP is the body's energy currency. It's like the Australian dollar. That's like
Mhm.
the way I look at it. So what's really unique about SS31 peptide is that it actually helps to improve and increase the number of your mitochondria in the human body. So that is extremely beneficial for not only supporting energy, so energy and fat loss, but also helping to support and decrease your risk of many different types of diseases, because a lot of
Wow.
diseases are now being linked back to mitochondrial dysfunction.
Hmm.
And then if you think about it, like your audience might be wondering, like, what else can we do to improve our mitochondria? Like, what can we do from a lifestyle perspective? It's all the common things that we talk about: ice baths, fasting, blueberries, sauna, exercise, like all the healthy things, the typical healthy things that people recommend. Funnily enough, a lot of them actually have beneficial effects on improving mitochondrial function as well.
Awesome. All right. What else? So what was that one called
Um,
again? SS what?
SS31.
SS31. Okay.
Yeah. In terms of like a cardiovascular health, that's also really beneficial, because it actually supports energy utilization by the heart. So anything that can preserve heart function as you age is going to be very beneficial for
Mhm.
general like health and overall vitality.
Yep.
So a lot of people are using SS31 not only for its like energy boosting effects. I personally haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to trying it though. Like if anyone offered, I've got amazing contacts who could just get it to me at the drop of a finger. But I'm running so many other experiments right now that I'm just yeah not gonna try that yet.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, in terms of like muscle growth and anything else, like is BPC 157 and TB 500 still like the go-tos for that?
That's definitely yeah the go-tos for like muscle recovery and sort of injury healing, tendon damage. Um, One of my friends recently tore his Achilles tendon,
Mm,
which is a really bad, like it's one of the worst injuries you can get because you're out of action for like a year.
mm,
I put him on a stack of like BPC 157, TB 500, and also MK 677, which is
yep,
also known as a butamorin, which is an oral peptide, like an oral
yep.
compound, um, which is not a SARM. A lot of people think that MK677 is a SARM. It's not. And he used this particular stack, and his recovery, he's literally accelerated it by like 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
Um, his healing rates, his sleep quality's gone up. He's packed on about like 6 kilograms of muscle.
Mm.
Uh, and he's been eating like a horse as well.
Really?
Yeah, it
Legend.
makes you super hungry.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to ask you probably a few things that I want to really cover off on is um, I want to cover off on training styles, and things like that. And then I want to talk to cognitive function. So uh, I don't know if it's just something that I'm going through lately. I don't know if it's an energetic thing. I don't know if it's like something that I need to tweak in terms of sleep, or whether it's just because I've got a very active lifestyle. If I'm not podcasting, I've got another business outside of this. So I'm working outdoors all the time. I've got 3 kids. There's a lot of running around, but I just feel in the last probably 2 to 3 months, I just feel I'm just not as sharp. I don't know how to put it. Like some days I just find it hard to put sentences together, like I don't know why that is. I don't think there's anything majorly wrong with me, by the way. I just think if there was something else that I could improve cognitive function, just alertness and the ability to like recall information and all that kind of stuff, like I would definitely get under it. Okay, what have we got here?
This is that Brazilian herb that I was talking about before,
Yeah.
catuaba.
Yeah.
Yeah, made by inbeforesups.com.
Right. Okay.
This one here, man, I'm telling you, we've had a lot of guys mentioning benefits in terms of like nootropic effects, so improving verbal fluency in
Yep.
particular and like social confidence. So um, this is really like if you look at the research on catuaba, it does have some pretty strong effects in the brain and also helps to like wipe away that sort of brain fog, just that sluggish feeling,
Mm.
uh, without overstimulating you. It's not like coffee. It
Yep.
just sort of helps to clear out the brain fog and improve like mental acuity.
Sure. But is the brain fog, is there a link to gut health, or is there a link to thyroid? Is there something that maybe I'm not seeing that I should be
Definitely.
looking at?
So there could be like brain fog is a result of many different potential possibilities. So it could be a gut issue, could be a thyroid issue, could be a testosterone issue, could be heavy metal toxicity, could be mold toxicity, it could be blood sugar instability where your blood sugars are all over the place.
Yeah.
Could also be a neurotransmitter sort of imbalance as well. So like maybe the acetylcholine pathways being compromised.
Yeah. What
Um,
about
but
cortisol?
typically,
Is it is
yeah, yeah. So
so I'm,
cortisol is like basically cortisol is chronically elevated. Like I said, when you go on a low carb diet,
mm,
some people can feel like euphoric off cortisol. Like
yeah, right.
they get high on stress, basically. Um, they don't know what it's like to switch over into like a parasympathetic calm state.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, cortisol could be causing inflammation and causing that brain fog as well.
Mm. I was looking at some information that Gary Brecker was putting out not too long ago. Can't remember who he was interviewing, but they were talking to training, ice baths, saunas, all those sorts of things, right? And what they were saying is that it's a stressor. So like, when you have a
Yeah,
workout, it's a stressor. So you're putting your body under stress, it's releasing cortisol and it's doing all these things to fix up your muscle tissues and all those sorts of things. When you're at work and you've got a high pressure situation, it's a stressor. When you're in the sauna, when you're in the ice bath, like you're putting stress on yourself all the time. So she was talking to having off days and relaxing as much as possible because your body needs to recover from those high moments of stress. Does that make sense?
yeah. So what we say about these particular activities, like exercising really hard, going into the ice bath, doing anything that's like physically exerting yourself, is going to be what we call like a hormetic stress, which is you're going to be doing something that's going to be challenging the body for a short period of time. And then you would hope that the body then responds to that stress by making the body stronger. That
Mm,
is basically the whole premise behind like bodybuilding.
of course.
Or it's like, it's the whole, yes, it's like break down muscle tissue. Then you would hope that you're giving the body enough resources to then recover. The problem is that people will like train really hard, but they're not actually refueling with enough protein. They're not sleeping well. And then they're compounding that with like their job stress
Yeah.
and their work stress. And that's when everything just all sort of falls out the door.
Mm. Do you find like because like, you're a busy guy, you're trying to be healthy, you're creating supplements, you've got podcasts, you've got everything going on. Is it hard for you to switch off? Like I
Mhm.
feel like there's a part of my DNA that's kind of like it. I find it troublesome to be doing nothing or being bored. Like I need to be active and have something to do. Does that make sense?
I'm exactly the same, man. Like I do find it pretty challenging to what will happen is I've trained myself to be hyper productive so that that's been great in some ways, but then obviously it's come at a cost. Sometimes when I'm like at social events or like just like getting into the social mood, it's been a little bit of a challenge because sometimes I feel like it's a bit of a waste of time. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I'd rather be,
I could be creating a program instead of listening to this it going on about the weather.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Um,
I know what you mean.
Look, it's an entrepreneurial trap. Like, I mean, it's
I think
it's
so.
it's one of the things where it's like I've really tried hard to encode my biology to be tailored to. I get my dopamine from completing work, so
Yeah.
I'm getting my dopamine hit from like ticking off tasks. But fortunately, my lovely girlfriend, she's a psychologist,
Hmm.
and so it's funny. I like people would say, "Oh, you're dating a psychologist. She's taught you how to like switch out of this." She's been great because she actually helps to keep me more present. She'll be the one saying, "Let's go out, let's explore, let's do things." So I'm really grateful for that relationship.
Yeah, I can relate to that. My woman likes to book holidays and go for weekends away and stuff like that. I would just never fucking do it. I would just, it's just like, I'm always looking for an opportunity to, get more days in the week, So, yeah. Do you meditate at all?
I did go through a period of time where I was meditating quite consistently. Definitely got a lot from it, but I I know I can benefit from it, but yeah, really I use something else instead. I use like a particular device that activates your vagus nerve.
Yeah. What's that?
It's called a pulsetto.
Yeah.
It's like $200. You put it around your neck, and it sends electrical impulses to your vagus nerve,
Yeah.
and it
Wow.
can help to switch your body into a parasympathetic state within like 10 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So do you just pop that on every night sort of thing, or just whenever you're
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed?
So I've been actually using it in my I've got a hyperbaric oxygen chamber
Oh, sick.
upstairs.
Mm.
So I'm just using that. I know it's a privilege and I'm lucky to have it. But like, yeah, I'll typically use that in the hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. I'll have to look in. I think there's somewhere down here that has a hyperbaric chamber. So I haven't been in one for like 15 or 20 years, I don't think. So I used to go up to Sydney and use one way back when in Glebe. I'm not sure if it's still there, but anyway, I'd have to go into it. I know you got to pull up stumps pretty quickly, so in not too long a time. Can we just switch gears a little bit to training? I am really loving my training of late. I am feeling really good about myself in terms of strength and things like that. I love my workouts, and I'm trying to condense as much as I possibly can into the one session, meaning that I'm not doing everything that I possibly can, but I'm trying to, if there's an amount of weight that I can lift in a shorter period of time, so time under tension, lifting sort of like a 80% of my max weight for more than like, say 4 or 5 sets, that sort of stuff, drop sets, giant sets, supersets, like all of those things. So I can kind of get the biggest bang for buck in the shortest period of time, because I know that after 35, 40 minutes, I'm going to be checked out physically and mentally. I'm just going to be spent. What are you hearing, listening? Like, what are you experimenting with at the moment in terms of training and what's working well?
Yeah, I actually really do like that approach, which is like it's almost like lifting weights on a budget. It's like well, you're like that's what I do with like cardio. So there's actually some pretty ridiculously cool research where they analyzed what happens if you do just two 20-second sprints on like an assault bike
Mm,
3 times a week. And the sort of changes that occur in the body just by doing two 20-second actual, when I say sprints, I mean like
all
100% of
out.
your max
Yeah, yeah, sure.
all out.
Hmm.
The sort of changes that occur in the human body just by doing that for like 8 weeks, it's insane. Like it increases VO2 max, it lowers your blood sugar, and it just does so many beneficial things in the human body.
Wow.
Now, whether or not that would actually translate to lifting weights, I think what you're trying to do is like recruit the most number of muscle groups during a short workout to
Mm.
basically maximize the growth hormone response and the testosterone spike in a short period of time. And I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's a great approach.
Yeah. Well, I think my theory is like if I'm doing flat dumbbell bench press, right, and I'm racking up the 50 kilo dumbbells, I can only get 8 reps, but that doesn't mean that I can't get 8 reps on 46, and then another 8 reps on 40, and then another 8 reps on 30, and then completely exhaust my muscles like to the extent where I can't even do 25 kilos, like half for 8 reps. Then I feel like that muscle's like really exhausted. Then I can go on to
Mm.
the next set and the next exercise, and rinse and repeat that same sort of process, right? So I feel like at the end of that, as opposed to doing 4 sets of this and 4 sets of that and pyramid up or whatever, I feel like I can do all of that work in 35 minutes and my chest is blasted. So if I do the same with legs, like I know you just said before, getting on here, you blasted your legs. So you're
Yeah.
trying to get off the lactic acid. It's the same deal. Like when you do that with squats or 45-degree leg press or leg extension, your quads are fucking on fire, right? And
Yeah.
so, and like I want to have big legs. I don't want to be one of those bodybuilders built like a fucking light bulb. I want to make sure that I can at least have one good, strong lower body, but, just not look out of whack.
Look, I mean, there's new research coming out about different training modalities, whether it's like 5 by 5, is it 8 to 12 reps? Is it all about volume? Is it all about progressive overload? Progressive overload could mean many different things. Progressive overload doesn't necessarily mean constantly increasing the weights. It could also be a decrease in rest time between sets.
Mm,
It could also be time under tension as well. So like the controlled slower reps, that can actually mean you're progressively overloading. I mean, both you and I know that if you had to do 6 reps of what did you say, 50 kilo dumb, that's pretty. Is that your dumbbell
Flat
bench?
dumbbell bench is at the moment at 50 kilos, 8 reps, 8 or 9 reps is
Wow.
about the most I can do. The
So
rack goes up
in
to 60, so that's my goal is to get to the end of the end of the rack.
you got to come to my gym, man. They go up to like not I think like 92
Oh
a month.
wow. Yeah, that's intense.
It's a the Derrimut gyms. You might know them.
Yeah,
They're
no,
all over.
I don't know them. Derima.
It's Derrimut
Oh,
gyms.
Derima, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
no,
just
I haven't been because you're down in Melbourne, aren't you?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I went to Doherty's gym. It was like in a big cave, tunnel thing years ago. I had a competition down there, and I went down and trained at his gym, so that was pretty good. But yeah, I haven't been to too many gyms up this way. They're trying to get rid of the dumbbells. They don't want the big heavy ones. They don't want big guys in there lifting heavy weights. They just want to fuck them off and have the 30 kilo max.
The
Just
featherweights. The
yes, exactly right.
featherweights.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's
Um,
funny.
Mate, I could keep you all day. I know you're such a busy guy, so I appreciate your time. Where is the best place for people to go and find you and learn more about your work and also thank you for the information that you put out. I am a big fan and I follow a lot of your work and I really appreciate just how up to date you are with a lot of things. You talk about the highs and the lows, the good and the bad, which I think is a really good dynamic. And so you're doing great work. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate that, Adrian. And if your audience wants to check out my content on YouTube, I recommend just binge watching my videos. That's Boost Your Biology on YouTube. So yeah, no, it's always a pleasure chatting, Adrian, and we'll have to tee up another time to chat again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm ever down the Melbourne way, I'll give you a buzz.
Definitely, definitely.
All
Awesome.
right, legend. You have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Adrian.
See you,
Take
bud.
care.
Take care.